Welcome to the Perspectives with Catherine Toon podcast.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Perspectives with Catherine Toon. And I have a very dear guest. We've been having such a good time. We almost forgot to turn on the recording, which is some of the best times. Welcome,
Right.
Jason Clark.
Hey, good to see you. I am scrolling right now trying to find the chapter you're in. Yes, I got it.
I should have given you more time. I put you on the spot.
All of a sudden, it crossed my mind while you hit record. Hi, how are you?
That's what the numbers are.
That's right, right. It's so intimidating. 5, 4, 3. It's good to see you.
It is. We're such professionals. But we're having a good time. Anyway,
right.
It is great to have you on. I've enjoyed it every time you've come on, and I've enjoyed being on your podcast. And for those of you who've been on some other planet, Jason Clark is of the Rethinking God with Tacos fame. And it's a phenomenon that we know and we love you, Jason. I'm really glad you're here.
I love you too. It's so good hanging out with you on podcasts and in person. Last year we got to connect in person, and maybe this year, I don't know.
Right.
But, we're having a blast with the tacos podcast, and the Facebook group continues to grow. There's a real sweet community there. And we even have a reunion, our second reunion this year. So
yes, you do. September. What are the dates for that? Just tell people right off the bat.
Yes. September 25th through 27th in my backyard, Charlotte, the Queen City. And Baxter Kruger, who I know you've had on, will be with us, and Damon Thompson, if you're familiar with that name.
I am.
And so he'll be with us, and a bunch of other amazing folks. Deb Alexander will be there.
Love
Deb. So it's good, but
that'll be great. Another family reunion.
Exactly. It's kind of wild. I was the last year, folks were asking me, this must be everything you've dreamed. And the first person that asked me at the because it was a beautiful time together. Mm-hmm. And the first person that asked, I thought, I don't know that I ever dreamed about this. And I that wasn't a good answer. So, I was like, this is actually beyond anything I've dreamed.
Above all you can think.
Yeah, exactly. And I realized it was the folks that I'm doing life with. This was just the response of taking the next step. And it's been amazing. I'm looking forward to this year and all the amazing folks and friends that I've made because of the podcast. So
wow. Now Rethinking God with Tacos has been on how many years? When did you guys start?
We're in season 6, so 5.5 years.
Okay.
And we started during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that, and for those who don't know, Rethinking God with Tacos is our podcast. It's an hour and a half, and we bring guests on, folks that are convinced that God is love. His love is always good. That there's no shadow of turning, and they maybe are chasing down some aspect of that of the nature of his affection. And then we try and have a better thought about who he is together on the podcast than the last best thought we had. That's kind of the working premise. The best thought you have, it doesn't hold a candle to who he really is. And so we launched it during COVID. Right. And I think strategically, I didn't plan it, but it worked out because some of our first guests was Baxter Kruger and Paul Young and Brad Jerzak, and those guys were just dying to talk because they had been stuck. They'd been stuck in their homes and they weren't on the road. And so
I have all this brilliance, and
I reached out to them, they were like, "I can talk for an hour and a half," and so it worked out that I was able to have profoundly beautiful conversations from the beginning. And I learn through conversation. So for me, it's been like being in school with some of the best teachers on the planet, speaking to our Trinitarian understanding, and union being the through line.
Yeah.
And we're in year 6, and I mean, I've had you on, and so many amazing folks who speak to the goodness of God. You came on. I can't remember if we called it Loveology.
Yes, I think that's what you called it. Yes.
Which I love. And it's been good. It's been an amazing journey and life-giving for me. And it's been fun to see the connections that have been made. That's the other piece that's fun, right?
Right. Isn't that beautiful? That's what makes it all worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
So that's so beautiful. Now I understand you have yet another book coming out. So tell us about your latest child.
Hey, this is the first podcast about that book.
Okay.
Catherine,
so I'm honored.
I'm honored. So I actually, and this is very different than anything I've written before. It actually is titled Rethinking God with Tacos. And you're in it. And I was searching for the chapter 9. And of course, it's on
camera.
On identity.
Yes.
And I might read from it a little bit later. I've opened it up. But it's a little different in that most of the time I'm a storyteller and it's more memoir style. And this is capturing almost 200 plus conversations. I mean, we've had almost 200. I couldn't capture them all, but 18 chapters. And I'm processing through themes that we've had in the podcast, and I'm highlighting guests that have come on. And I think probably in the book there's probably 45 to 50 guests that I highlight, from Baxter to Brad to yourself to Tommy Miller to Damon Thompson, Brian Zahn, just all these voices that have the different topics. And then I did my best to catalog it, put it in an order that makes sense. So the first chapter is what is the gospel, and of course we open up with Baxter on that one, and then the cross. So Crowder's and speaking to our understanding of the cross. Baxter, I think, is in chapter 2 as well. And on union, a Christological hermeneutic, relational theology, deconstruction, Trinitarian faith. We talk about grace, the kingdom, inclusion, universalism, hell, justice, and we end it with the long arc of love. We talk on identity, the incarnation. It's the church, path to wholeness. So a lot of chapters that focus on the questions and the themes of the podcast. And I tell a few stories throughout, but mostly highlighting conversation and trying to weave them from one to the next in a cohesive way. And so I'm excited about it. It's taken longer. It always takes longer.
It always takes longer.
Pre-selling these books at the last conference. So sorry, guys, for those who ordered it. Next month, we're in June.
It is coming. The baby's just a little late.
Well-formed and healthy. Yes.
Yes. Well-formed, healthy. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, boy, those are, when you think of the topics, those are meaty, yummy topics. Yeah. And you have so many voices that have such revelation in them. It's almost like an anthology of deep revelation on some really exquisitely nuanced, deep, profound topics. And I'm telling you, it was like, I walked away from the book. It's like, I just had a good meal. This is really good. So
thank you. Absolutely. I feel that way too. Union is the through line. Mm-hmm. So the idea that there's no shadow of turning. And I am very strategic in the voices that we're highlighting, when we get to the cross, John does a brilliant job of dismantling substitutionary atonement, mm-hmm. and so right off the cusp, outside, Baxter, what is the gospel? The gospel's not good advice, but good news about what has already been accomplished, right? And maybe I'll read this part to you, but
good, yes.
But chapter 1, and it's a bit of storytelling with Baxter, but this section here is a small snippet. Baxter's a kind fella, a Southern gentleman, and brilliant. It wasn't long before we discussed a shared hero in Scripture, the disciple John, the one Jesus loved. We began by diving into the book of John, a text that has been a wellspring for me. Baxter shared how John's narrative isn't merely a collection of theological insights. It's a living testament to the ongoing dialogue between God and humanity. This dialogue reveals the very heart of our Christian faith, where everything ultimately points to intimacy and union with Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This is Baxter. Jesus came into our darkness, not merely to rescue us, but to illuminate it from within. There's a reason they call it the good news, I thought. You'll read that phrase often, as it's a discovery I continually make. Jesus is simply astonishing, and the good news is always better than the last time I checked. Baxter continued. I'll read a little more. Jesus entered into our darkness not to condemn us, but to bring light and clarity. He didn't stand on the sidelines judging our delusions and pain. Instead, he stepped into our mess, illuminating the shadows with his presence. For years, Baxter put language around the Trinitarian faith, and this early conversation was a foundational invitation for the podcast in the days and years ahead. Jesus, this is Baxter again, stepped into our delusion, our pain, and our brokenness, not as an outsider, but as one of us, revealing the Father's heart in the midst of our deepest struggles. Baxter continued, this is not a distant theological concept, but a lived reality, a beacon of hope in the darkest nights of our souls. Anyway, I go on. That's
so good.
Right? It's so good.
So good. I mean, you might just have to fall in love with him again. It's just a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, so powerful, and so freeing. And I think if that's one thing that I hear as I'm engaging and watching your guests on the podcast, being a guest in our discussions, and then also just in the group, there's just so much freedom that's happening as we're sharing, and it's a safe space to do that. And that's so life-giving. Yeah.
The fun thing has been, and you've been one of these voices, and we were talking about this before you hit record. And I've talked about this often on the podcast, that when I started the podcast 5+ years ago, I thought maybe if there were 6-7 people, 6-7 voices that I knew that were convinced there was no shadow of turning, right? That had discovered Psalm 22 at some point in the last 15 years, or even further back, as when Baxter's concerned and others. But the idea that a father doesn't look away, that love doesn't leave or forsake us. There's neither death nor life, angels, demons, nothing separates us from his love. And when you start banging the drum for that revelation, and you start growing in it and finding language for it, it can be lonely. And especially 15 years ago, and even 10 years ago, and upwards to 5 years ago, I didn't have but a handful of names when we started the podcast. Like there might have been 6 or 7 names on a list. One of them was Bono, So, we still haven't pulled that one off yet, but
Jesus, we're calling it in.
Come on.
Yes.
But here we are today, and I've got a book with 45 names and a list with 150.
Yeah. Wow.
And so thankful for those who have been putting language to this Trinitarian perichoretic revelation of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Face to face, as Baxter describes, this union that we're participating in, and the language that we get to continue to develop and grow an awareness of, and the relationships that have come from it, and then to be able to put a book together with Catherine Toon, and the title is on identity, and this was the chapter with 5 different voices. And I normally don't have that many, but so many brilliant voices on identity. And so then to figure out how to put it together, Katie Scourgia.
Oh yeah, I love Katie. I haven't had her on though. I need to get her on.
Amazing.
She is.
She's in this chapter. Justin Stumville, if you know that, a good friend of mine, Jamie and Donna Winship. And then my dad spoke to this chapter. He kicked us off. Love my dad, Lloyd Clark. And then Catherine Toon, Loveology, Awakening to Our True Identity. So I want to give my friend Catherine the last word. She's a radiant voice of love, carrying the message of God's infinite affection and theological depth and personal warmth. When I talk with her, it feels like family, like we grew up in the same house, speaking the same language of grace and union. And her thoughts about our identity are pretty dang good. Our sense of self starts, and this is you. And this is what's fun, getting to highlight these voices Our sense of self starts and ends in the epicenter of love, Catherine said. I agreed. Everything about who we are flows from God's infinite affection. Catherine's language for this is beautiful, even disruptive. She calls it loveology. It's the study of God as love, a lens that changes everything. It's also an amazing song by Regina Spektor, which we talked about at one point.
So funny.
I throw her lyrics in here. Anyway, if you don't know, she's one of my favorite musical artists. Catherine's passion for this topic shines through every chapter of her book, Marked by Love. She says, "You are literally a poem to the world cut out of the same bolt of fabric as your creator." Pause and take that in. Our identity isn't just an afterthought or a mystery we're trying to unravel. It's intentional, woven into the very essence of who God is, love. When we begin to see ourselves through that lens, we're stepping into the truth of our original design. And then this is you again. The word needs to become flesh in us, Catherine said. This is you, in quotes, this requires an experiential encounter with this God who utterly adores us. Kathy continued by encouraging us to encounter God personally, to sit in the truth of who we are as his beloved. And then I go on. It's good stuff. I keep quoting you, Catherine. I got to quote this. An incurable humanist you are, Regina sings in her Loveology song, and I hear it in Catherine, as Catherine talks. For many, the hurdle to experiencing love is the yeah, but. Catherine knows this struggle. The problem is we don't know how adored we are. We don't know how much of an incurable humanist God actually is. Catherine said something I think should go on a t-shirt. God is smarter than our stupid. I continue on, but you close out that chapter, Catherine, and
thank you.
It was so much fun to write it. It was a lot of work because I pulled that from an hour conversation that we had.
I mean, I'm impressed because that's a lot of time listening and getting the snippets. And wow, that's impressive. Yeah. Well, thank you. And it is a joy. And there's so much that runs throughout this whole book with the voices. It's interesting because you mentioned something about, it used to be maybe a handful of people, 5 people, 6 people that were kind of running with this, but God has been working so much in us. And I think one of the things that you said is that there's now been language that's been put forth so that we can come together and actually have topics, because there's so many things that we know that we don't have language for yet.
Yeah.
I mean, ongoing, right?
Yeah.
In terms of how good God is and how loved we are and what he's doing in his mastery and all of this and and so having this book, your platform with the podcast, all these conversations, it's like we're tracking with something that's so big, and we're able to layers get peeled off so that we can see him better and see ourselves as well. And it's thank you for that.
Well, and that's, even that phrase loveology, which God gave you. And, so many things that Tom Ord has the logic of love. Yes. These phrases that resonated, we had Graham Cook on recently. How much fun was that? And Graham gave me relational theology.
I love it.
15, 20 years ago. And to be able to have this language for this ever expansive revelation of his affection, right? The measureless nature of his love. And we can't help but talk about it when we get together. Yeah. But it's true. It's I think we'll be spending eternity trying to understand, trying to put language to the oh wow moments of his goodness,
Yeah.
It's not going to be a 24/7 worship service begging him to come down.
Oh my. That just makes me tired.
I know. Me too. Me too.
Oh my goodness. It's so sad because, it's like, portions of the body don't have that revelation yet. So we're begging someone who's begging us. I'm already here. I was there before you got here.
Yeah.
And, and just his heart. And, you sense how excited, excuse me, and pleased God is as we're tracking with this more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that I think we're awakening to in this moment. I think we've been, for me, and I would say I feel like the church is taking these steps as well. There was this is, Jesus goes under the water to get baptized, and the Father says, "This is my son, right? This is my child, whom I love. With him I'm well pleased." And I feel like even in my own journey, you start with, "Oh, I am his beloved. I am his child.
Yeah.
I am getting a revelation first of who he is through the Christological lens of Jesus, right? That we get a revelation of who he is, and he's my father. I'm his child, his beloved, the one that he loves. That John, refers to himself 3 times, and
I love that.
The one that Jesus loves. I have a one of a kind revelation of our friendship, of my sense of being a childlikeness, my sonship, daughtership, and then whom I love with. So this is my child, whom I love, and I feel like you and I could spend the next 4 hours unpacking this measureless love, and we still not come close. But the thing that I am growing in is with whom I'm pleased.
Yes.
That all of life's flow, all the quantum nature of what we're discovering in union is discovered in his pleasure.
Yes.
And my ability to live righteousness, peace, and joy, to live from his affection, is in that pleasure. I remember
so good.
being an associate pastor in a very big box church 13 years ago, and I'd come into union and this love, and I didn't have as much language as I did now, but they called me Pastor Love at the church, and they would do the heart thing when they'd see me, and Pastor Love, is he in a good mood today? And because Bill Johnson says God's in a good mood, and but I couldn't introduce them to Bill because it was a big box Methodist church, so they would have we weren't drinking from that watering hole, and you shouldn't Google Bethel because the first things that come up aren't friendly.
True. Yeah.
So I was the God is in a good mood guy. When I would preach, I'd say, "Hey, God's in a good mood. And Pastor Love, is God in a mood today? Oh man, he's in such a good mood. You should ask him for something, But I remember also being stretched because it was big church. It was we built around systems and structures and all the things that a right-brained guy who thinks relationally can wrestle with. And we had a which is a big deal in the Methodist Church. We had a what do they call it? A co-op type event after for their ministries, like a ministry fair is what it was called.
Okay.
And all of the ministries are in the auditorium, and they're all got their, and the church goes and signs up to each ministry. I mean, this is all the stuff that kills a right brain guy, And so I'm in my office upstairs, and I get in the elevator to go downstairs, and I am overwhelmed by what am I doing? And I remember saying to my father, I'm not the man you think I am. And immediately he said, yes, you are. And then he said this, he said, and I'm really pleased with you. And when he said, I'm really pleased with you, my tiredness completely dissolved. I went from being completely drained to overwhelmingly present, right? Just completely available again. And I noted it. I was like, oh, it's my Father's pleasure that is my strength. That is the thing that I think we're awakening to, that the church is awakening to, this, not just that we are his kids, not just that he loves us, but that he likes us, that he's pleased with us. I didn't mean to go on a preach, but I think that's where we're at.
That is a good preach. I'm digging the preach.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's true, but living from that pleasure, because kind of sometimes, with the love thing, and I'm all about love, it's all good. But number one, you can kind of tune it out some. And sometimes people can, be tracking with a love thing, but you kind of think, well, that's God's job description. Like, so he's required.
Right.
And so, you just feel like, well,
it's
he's
in the
putting
name.
up with me, but he loves me.
Right.
I have a good heart. He loves me, whatever.
He has to love me.
Exactly. Right. As he signed the contract, I gotta, but living from his pleasure means that not only does he love, but it's his whole being is for you.
Yeah.
Even in where we're at in our growth process, our unveiling process, our being conformed to the image process, and that brings such life.
Yeah.
And so much of my time was spent to try to earn that.
Yeah.
And I think so much of the church and so much humanity is trapped in that because it's never enough if you don't start from his pleasure.
Come on. Yeah. Well, and that was that whole story of Jesus getting the well pleased is the way with him. I'm well pleased.
Exactly.
For me, the major shift 16 years ago was the revelation that I had been living my whole life for a well pleased.
Yeah.
And Jesus got the well pleased before he did the stuff.
Exactly.
And everything was shifting in that 16 years ago, where I was like, the idea that I adore him is actually birthed in the reality that he adores me.
Yes.
I get emotional thinking about it. When they handed me my daughter and I looked upon her with adoration, this is my Father looking upon me with adoration.
Yes.
And his pleasure has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I'm Jason, made perfectly in his image and likeness. Exactly. And I don't get a say in how he feels about me.
Yeah.
And man, you come into that place. And I mean, these are old stories, but when I was discovering this, I had prayed a prayer 16 years ago that I'll no longer interact with you, God, based on my perspective or my needs or my moment, but I'll interact with you based on your love. And I was praying a prayer of union from this day forward. I will participate in the perichoretic dance. Was what I was praying. I didn't fully understand, but that was
you
the
didn't
language.
have the words. Yeah.
And that first year, I began to find these places of insecurity and desperation, which were the areas that he was dealing with in me. Right. Which, if you're trying to earn something, those are going to be the fruits of earning.
Exactly.
And so desperation and the charismatic movement that I grew up in, desperation was the high watermark of spiritual maturity.
Yes.
Whoever's the most desperate in the room is the
most spiritual,
and the most holy, right? Yes. Let's get them to come down. And that impacted all my relationships. And so God over that year began to address those relationships and how I related to folks. First, him, I don't get a say in who I am. I need to come into alignment with how he sees me. And he really likes what he sees. He sees me in Christ. And then I don't get a say in and I don't get to participate in that in relationship with my wife. And I began to repent. But then there was a day that I realized I had this desperate relationship with the church and with leadership. I was always looking for the man of God to recognize me. And my wife and I got invited to a leaders meeting about 3 hours up the road. We were in a season where we had no money and we probably were behind on our mortgage at that point, but we weren't doing desperation. And we really weren't. I was just navigating. Have I told this story before?
I've heard parts of it. Keep going. It's a great story.
I don't want to spend too much, but it's an old story. But anyway, my wife, we had a couple $100 in the bank. Mm-hmm. It's halfway through the month, so you need that money. But I get this invite to go to this leaders thing, and I think, oh, finally, I'm being seen, and I didn't know that wasn't it. I didn't know that was what I was really. I just was like, oh, God has something for me here. He has to, because I've never been invited as a leader to a leaders thing. And so I say it to my wife, but we needed new tires, and she's like, I don't know if this. I said, I don't know if this is a good idea, and she said, well, what takes more faith? That was my wife. So I got in the car and we drove 3 hours, and the tires were really bad. You couldn't turn the radio up loud enough to drown them out.
Been there.
But, I kept saying, Father, I don't know about these tires. I wasn't bringing my needs to him at the time, so I was just kind of, I don't know if you're in the car with me. And at one point he said, "Do you have enough money for today?" And I said, "Yeah, maybe. I don't know." And anyway, got to the event, and I don't know if I had bad breath. I don't know what it was, but I was in that meeting, and not one person would talk to. I couldn't get anyone to interact with me.
Oh,
and you've been to a conference at lunchtime. You go to lunch with somebody,
right?
I stayed in the building until everyone was gone. I talked to everyone, trying to get an invite. Probably desperation was coming off of me in waves.
Oh, no.
But I'm in the room, and I'm like, man, I paid a price to get here. Like we don't have any money. I'm driven up here. I got the invite. I'm in the room. Nobody's in the room, and I go to my car, and I'm in a dark place.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of discouraged. And as soon as I start to drive out, I'm going to go to a Starbucks and get the cheap coffee, and I'll fast otherwise. And I start to pull out, and the tires that's pretty obvious. And so again, I'm like, "Father, what about these tires?" And he said, "Do you have money for today?" And long story short, I end up at a Walmart. I go in, $170 for the tires. And I walk out. As I hand the key to the attendee, the front driver's side tire pops. As
wow.
So,
wow.
So he looks at me and says, "You got somebody riding with you, man." And I chuckle, and then as I'm walking away, I get emotional, and I start laughing with God, because I am. Have you ever, back in the old day when you would get a tire changed, they would ask you, "Do you want to keep the tire?"
Right.
Back in the old days, and you would think to yourself for a half minute, well, sure, it might have some tread on, and then you'd always go, "What am I going to do with a tire? I'm here to get the tire changed." So you'd say. Right. So I'm walking across, and all of a sudden I'm like, that tire gave me everything it had. It gave me every ounce of tread that was ever designed.
Thank you for your surface. Yes.
Yeah. And so I was feeling all silly, like, "Well done, tire." And I was like, "Well done, tire." And I was laughing with God. And then I remembered Bill Johnson saying that he was living for 3 seconds, because he figures that's about how long it takes to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And I had been living for those 3, and I'm not suggesting that's not a good thing to live for, but I had been too, but I've been living for it.
Yeah.
I've been living for that day when I die, and I hope to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
Yeah.
And as I was thinking about that, I said, "Father, I know it's silly, but I want you to feel about me the way I feel about that tire. I want to hear that 'well done.'" And before I could finish, he said, "Son, before the foundations of the earth, you have the 'well done.' Yeah. You've had it since before I formed you in your mother's womb, and you don't get a say in it. There's nothing you can do to change your mind. I am well pleased with you, and this is the gospel. Come into alignment with me, son, and start living from this well done, from this well pleased." And it's the same thing. All of a sudden, I'm filled with energy, filled with life. I go to Starbucks and buy the biggest drink they got, right? Like,
you're going to splurge.
Yeah, exactly. And of course he provided for us, but this is the gospel, that we're living from his pleasure, that we're living from the finished work, that we're not having to wait until we die to hear about whether or not he liked us. Yeah. But as you said, he loves us and he likes us. This is but anyway, I'm telling stories, Catherine.
That is a beautiful. I love your stories. I mean, that's one of the ways that you bless, because there's so much richness. I mean, I hadn't heard of the tire popping. Well done, that good and faithful servant. and I mean, that's so beautiful. And that, is interesting, because you kind of went because you're like, I want to belong. I want to connect. I want to hear these leaders, that I belong here. I'm well done and whatever. And God was like, yeah, that's old news, but we'll say it again.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that right?
He set me free from needing, that was the reality. He set me free from needing to hear, "Well done," from some man of God or some woman of God. Yeah. And it was suddenly my relationship was, I am living from his pleasure. I have I'm living in the confidence of his affection. Yeah. And now I'm here. I have something to give. I'm not here to get. I'm not here to because I need something, or my desperation, my insecurity. I'm here to live fully alive as his beloved. And suddenly I'm walking into rooms, you can't give what you don't possess.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm walking into the room confident. And people would pick up on that.
Exactly. And then they're drawn towards you, right?
Yeah.
Versus, well, great talking to you. We're heading out. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. But I mean, that is so diagnostic where so many live, and we're learning, we get to learn to live from his pleasure.
Come on.
It's not just a little bit of like, yeah, I'm mildly pleased. Here's a stick of gum. I mean, he is pleased.
Yeah.
And, and wants us to know it, because we will behave better. We will show up better. We will love better, which is what we're called to do.
Yeah.
Having received that, we can't, as you said, we can't give away what we don't have.
Come on.
And, and I think I think it's an honest issue. I think, I've seen it so much in the church, but not just in the audience, in the leadership that are performing from that place, and they're anointed, but there's still insecurity. And I really feel like God is just placing his hands, his fingers all over that place.
Yeah.
And sometimes that requires, for me, it took a period of hiddenness,
right?
Which was good, because like, you're all I have, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And right. And then the accolades come and whatever. And it's nice, but it's not what you live off of or you're striving for.
Yeah.
Because you're already living from that fullness. And then you can, what's so cool about that story is that now you're able to get your eyes off of you and your need and your desperation and flow with God and show up for others.
Yeah.
Because you're full.
And when you're hidden, most of my life, I feel like we're in a shifting season, and just in the last couple of years. But most of my life was hidden, and it's painful. But I've also learned if you're hidden, you can't unhide yourself. There's nothing you can do to.
Yes. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. And when you're hidden, you're misunderstood.
Yeah.
All the time. I start this book out that we're talking about. There's two things. I don't want to lose the other thing, but hidden. I write down on this notepad. This is what a professional does here. They got a little.
Okay, everybody take the tips. We're getting the professional tip.
I just started doing it yesterday, so no.
That's brilliant. We'll let you write.
For the last couple of years, I finally went, oh, you know what? I forget things unless in the middle of a conversation. I just put a note there. But in the first chapter, I'm introducing everyone, but I'm using Baxter as the person to introduce everyone. And Baxter lives in Jackson, Mississippi, and I lived in Jackson for 5 years. And Jackson's a beautiful place with beautiful people, but it's also a very, let's put it this way, there's a church on every corner and five in between. If I lived to be 100 years old and went every Sunday, I wouldn't go to every church. Everyone there, religion is a part of, and Christianity is a part of your social identity. Yeah. And so it can be quite suffocating if you think outside of the box. And of course, Baxter thinks outside of the box.
Right.
And I was thinking outside of the box as well when I lived there. And so those were some of my toughest years. And so I used the phrase early on when I was there. I led worship, and it was earnest and it was beautiful. And I was young, and I was looking for someone to lead and to father me. When the pastor came up afterwards and he used this phrase, he said, and I didn't know enough at the time to know it was a Southern colloquialism for dismissal, very polite, friendly way by which to say no, thank you. But he said, Jason, you're 2 weeks and a tambourine ahead of us. And so I thought it was a compliment.
Hallelujah.
I thought, well, who doesn't want to be 2 weeks and a tambourine ahead? I mean, and I learned over the next 5 years that he was basically saying, thank you, no, thank you. How many ways can we have you here and handcuff you and not see you and not recognize what you carry?
Wow.
And it became a phrase, and I used it to introduce Baxter, and then lots of different voices along the way. It became a phrase that my wife would use, a phrase that I would recognize was a phrase that recognized hiddenness and misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And where I would be dismissed over and over and over for 20 some years, nearly 30 years.
Wow.
And she would say, as we're driving away, and she could see my brain working through the sense of Christian religious rejection.
Yeah.
Separation is what it is. Worked out in these hierarchies of exclusion and controlling, and even though it's not always done maliciously,
right?
If you believe a father looks away, you'll build a culture of separation. It's impossible.
Right. Exactly.
And so I'd be driving away, and she'd say, "Baby, you're just 2 weeks in the tambourine ahead." And that became our phrase.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't always fun to hear it, but you were like, "Yeah, isn't that it?" And so I used that, but I used that phrase to say I'm grateful for those now who have been willing to walk hidden, 2 weeks in a tambourine ahead.
Yeah.
And who've become, I used Dylan's "Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me."
You did.
In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you, right? Like I'm so grateful for my tambourine friends who have been willing to be misunderstood.
Yeah.
To toe the line of his goodness, even when it was offensive, even when it cost them, and to continue to play the tambourine, and to understand that you can't. I would have described, until about 3 years ago, I would have described the last 15 years. In fact, a season's ending when you're able to put words around it.
Yes.
Only about 3 years or 4 years ago was I beginning to be able to put words around what I felt. And the way I would have described it is, well, I'm either John the Baptist or I'm Joseph, but one way or the other, I'm in a prison. Meaning, I'm going to get up this morning, and I'm going to brush my teeth, and I'm going to do my sit-ups and my push-ups, and I'm going to love the person in front of me. And at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go back into this. It doesn't matter what I invest in. It doesn't seem, it's not that it doesn't matter. I have to believe in the long game of love. This is where that language of the long arc of love, or the long game of love, but I don't know if tomorrow's the day they behead me, or if or I get a promotion.
Right.
I don't know. And how do you live there?
Yeah.
And just say, "You're good, Father. How do I trust you?" That's the hiddenness that you're talking about.
Yeah. Exactly.
That feels almost helpless.
Yeah.
But you just keep trusting, and you keep going. And so I'm grateful for hiddenness, and I'm grateful for those who navigate it, because revelation came through both of them, John and Joseph.
Yes.
It
did. And either God's good there.
Yeah.
If when you find out God's good there, then in your darkest.
Yeah.
Then it can permeate everything.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, and how God looks on that.
Yeah.
Because in my seasons of hiddenness, it's been, God has incredible things to say. And I'm like, I'm just showing up and brushing my teeth, doing my sit-ups, push-ups, all that, and loving the one in front of me, and trusting that there'll be some fruit out of this, even if it's only in me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And then believing that it is generational.
Yes.
And that the reality is, if I'm going to live generational, and I mean, my heart burns when I hear about generational thinking. Whenever I get emotional when I think about the ways in which, when I hear a story where someone in their latter years is sowing into something that will be greater for the next generation. If that's true, then I shouldn't see the fullness of what I am investing in today. And so how do you not fall away on account of me? As Jesus said, "Go tell John," when John was like, I don't know, this isn't working out the way I thought.
Or is there someone else? Yes.
Right. Go tell John everything you see, and then tell him, John, if you can live, and I don't know, but he's good. this will transform. And then it went on to say John is the greatest, right? What he has done is profound and generational impact. So if you're hidden, be encouraged. He is good. And, and the longer you're hidden, I think sometimes the more the impact. But
I agree. I look at it like a gestation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're gestating in the womb. You're being right, and so you know, the most complicated species have the longest gestational periods, right? And so because there's so much more intricacies, so by the time that baby is born, it's something wondrous and a contribution to the world. And so that is, you know, just learning how to settle in those places, because everything that God says about us is true. And we don't need peripheral stuff to back up the truth of God, right? With what he's saying about us, how he feels about us, right? Everything else is kind of an add-on. And the beautiful thing about that is that the willingness to be in those seasons raises up secure leaders. And when we have leaders that are insecure because they're not sure of his pleasure, even if theologically they may kind of get it, but they haven't really experienced his pleasure in that way, in a way that's convinced them, right? That things go sideways. And they can. So I would rather like gestate me, right? You know, cocoon me. You know, in the cocoon, literally the caterpillar turns into goo. Like literally, there is no. It is slimy, right? And so and you know, and that is the position of rest and trust. Like I do not have the ability to metamorphose myself. Right. But God is masterful in that and takes joy in it. And so we can tuck ourselves away and take pleasure in it. And in some ways, it's a very luxurious season because this really is you and him. You know, when you get super busy, right, you don't have the time for the amount of, because demands are made on you. So I think the lesson is just enjoy whatever season you're in. Because God is good in the midst.
And it's easier said than done, but also I for your journey, I know that you know, there are certain revelations. I remember when I had the revelation that Jesus got the well pleased before he did the stuff. I remember the explosive. It was everything a shift, because you're living. It was Jesus lived from the measureless beyond all you can ask or imagine, not for it. And I had been living my whole life for this measureless thing that maybe his love that I'd experienced. And when I got that revelation, we were, you know, we went at one point 18 months without being able to pay our mortgage, and we were weeks. We had a date where they were going to kick us out.
Wow.
And I don't tell the story often. I feel like I'm finally in the spot where I probably can start to write about it. But I mean, you know, I could tell stories about walking through the house and wondering where my kids were going to sleep, and standing in line to get food stamps, and not feeling and not participating in desperation, and then getting the revelation of living from that I have as well pleased, and saying, Father. And it wasn't a poverty prayer. It was, I'll stay here as long as I need to stay here so that I own this.
Wow.
Because this is the gospel.
So good.
And I don't want, I'm good right here where we are right now, to live in this space, to know this love, and to have it rooted in my bones, however long it takes. This is where I'll stay. I remember I was mowing the lawn, and I just was bawling for joy in the front yard as I realized that he was living from.
Wow.
He invited me to live in that same place. And so anyway, it's that's the stuff. And you're right. I want that from those that lead, that I entrust to lead.
Yeah.
I trust, those that are convinced in his affection.
Yeah.
And are growing in the revelation of his greater love that lays its life down for the other, for a friend.
Mm.
Those are the ones that I see God amplifying, and those voices are coming, are growing large in the moment we're in, and so grateful to get to know some of them.
And it's so beautiful to see how these people, they're popping up, and right? Whereas for so long, and one of the things I know when you first started the Facebook group, there were so many people here. It's like, wow, is there anybody in my area? I'm out in the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
And so many people, I think, that we don't recognize. Like God's doing a work in so many people that are even coming out from maybe the religious institutions. They have that holy discontent and something, Holy Spirit's niggling at them in their growth process. And it's beautiful to see how God is orchestrating all that, and just the pleasure that he takes as we're just all sort of chewing on this and grappling with it and growing together in it and undergirding one another in our growth in it. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. Yeah.
It is. And that's happening, I think, for you've got communities. There's so many folks that the community is growing. You're right. There's a discontent with the idea, the hypocrisy of separation, because it forces you to do mental gymnastics around his goodness. And so there's a discontent, a dissatisfaction. There's also a whole lot more opportunities to hear today than there ever has been of a father who doesn't look away.
Yes.
And so that is what's happening. Like it's the community that's gathered around the Tacos podcast is one, like you said, that is madly in love with Jesus, but are having better thoughts about him today than the best thoughts they had 10 years ago. And it's beautiful. It's been amazing to be a part of it. And I'm grateful to keep taking the next step, I guess.
Yeah. So tell us when your book is out.
Yeah.
Is coming out.
It's June 19 today.
Okay.
And we don't have a hard date. Probably the third week of July.
Okay.
So that's and this is 2025. If you happen to be watching, in the future, it'll be out. So
it'll be worth
I would
watching.
say by the end of July, it'll be out, and I should know a hard date soon. But
I know how that works because. You figure another rewrite,
Yes,
I get it.
I've got, and every time I turn around, I've got the, how it is. I've got the manuscript open, and this is the final, and then you're like, oh wait, someone just sent an endorsement, or
exactly.
Yeah, but
so many of my things, the final. No, this is really the final. Yeah. This is amazing.
It's good.
Editing never ends.
I'm looking forward to it. Every time you finish a book, you say, "I'll never do that again." And I've written a bunch under my name and for other people, and it doesn't matter how many. You're like, "Oh, I'm so glad it's done."
Right.
But this is the fun part. Now you get to share it with the world. So.
Yes, it's beautiful. And other plans, I know you had emailed and sent out some ideas of where you think things are heading and what God is calling you to do.
Yeah, briefly. So we do have the reunion coming in September, September 25th through 27th. That's going to be amazing. In my life, I mean, there's a few things happening with a family story, which is our ministry. That's what the podcast takes place under. Anything I write falls under that, and we are putting together a group, a more intentional, focused opportunity to connect. But I'm not quite ready to announce it yet. But stay tuned. And then we locally are dreaming into. We meet at my house and a friend's house every other Sunday. We call it Pancake Church.
I love it.
It started with Rethinking God with pancakes, but now it's just affectionately called Pancake Church. And it's been really, really sweet. We've been meeting about a year. And
nice.
I think that's we're looking to be more intentional. And so we're looking at maybe the end of this year having a space. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
The being able to work it out together in a room, this kind of conversation, but that's what we've been doing. And so we'd love to have some worship and maybe be a little more intentional Saturday night. So that's coming. So stay tuned for that. And then in my life, my brother and I started a company 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago. It's a production company.
I did not know this.
No.
So one of the many hidden talents.
Yeah.
So yes, or maybe it's just hidden from me. I don't know, but anyway.
Well, I haven't shared a lot because how do the two worlds? I don't try to figure out how to make them work. I just lean in. But it is. We are seeing some wonderfully fun things happening with screenplays and opportunities to write some other stories. We just had one of our screenplays. If you want to Google this, it made the blacklist for 2025.
Really?
12 of the last 19 Oscar-winning films were from the blacklist.
Wow.
It's where you get coverage for your screenplay, so you get feedback, and the top 5% of screenplays, and they'll see thousands and thousands, make it onto their yearly list.
Right.
And then producers and studios and actors go and search for screenplays. And so one of our films just made the blacklist. So
wow,
story about
that's exciting.
A family being restored, the loss of kids losing their parents, and then their aunt stepping in. It's a beautiful story. My brother and I wrote it. And our production company, if you want to look it up, it's deeplyrootedstories.com. And anyway, that's fun. So I get to
creative projects,
real creative, and then we've been working on things together for 20 years. So you want to talk about something that was hidden that we're seeing some light on. So that's fun. And then our ministry is thefamilystory.org.
Yes,
that's where you can find everything tacos related and conference information, all that stuff. So
and support. Right? Yes. Your listeners supported. So
that's true. That's true. And we are growing in ways that I'm bringing on some help. And so, everything helps to help us get organized and serve the community a little better. But it's been really a grand adventure. And so, yes, you can give it a familystory.org as well. We're grateful when you do. But,
that's wonderful. So many fascinating things that are developing. That is just wonderful. I'm excited. Now, are you? Do you have any other books that are coming down the pike, or just like, oh my God, my head's going to explode? Don't do that, Catherine.
Most of my writing the last year has been this book and screenplays, and so we have screenplays that we're working on. And I have a book. You always have one that you've got a folder. And you're throwing things into it.
Yep.
I have one under the title "The Long Game of Love."
I love that. Verbiage.
And there's enough there if I had time.
Yes.
You know how it is. I would need three or 4 months.
Right.
And I don't have that time right now.
Right.
And so I just keep putting things in it, and eventually it'll take 2 months and so maybe next year, but probably the following. But no, otherwise.
I've got the same thing. You just throw it in there. This is, great. We'll just, and let it develop when it's time to do. But that is wonderful.
And that was being developed before this book. I kind of put it aside to do this tacos book. And, but it's fun. We're always writing. What about you?
Yeah, well, I've got multiple projects that I'm throwing stuff in files. I don't have one right in my head space, but it happens with me a lot of times. Because I have multiple ones that I'm throwing stuff in there, and then the Lord will just breathe on. Oh, this is now, and so then I'll get started. But it's not for the minute, so I'm waiting for the breath, and but it's good. But I think a lot of times we are just stating things. We are meditating on things, and it'll come out, and it'll come somewhere. And so, you just trust the Lord to put it together. It's one thing about getting more mature, we'll call, you just don't have a lot of energy to if God's not breathing, we'll wait till he's breathing on that.
Yes.
I'm not duct taping. I'm not kicking doors down. Yeah. Right. We're flowing and letting it happen. Let the Lord piece it together. And then it'll be something that'll really be life-giving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
100%. I get that.
Right.
That was that I'll do what there's grace on to do today.
Right.
And
right.
I can't force anything. I'm just going to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like Paul Young.
Yeah.
You may have been influenced by some of my.
I know I have. So many amazing.
I love it. Yeah,
you included.
Well, I'm honored. I'm happy that's the thing. Well, it has been so much fun. I hate to end it, but I guess we gotta.
Right. Yeah.
You might have something else to do.
We're at an hour. We've been talking for an hour.
I know. How did that happen? It was 15 minutes tops. Yeah. But anyway, Well, it is always a joy to have you on. Everybody go out in July-ish sometime, to be announced, when the Rethinking God with Tacos book comes out, and I'll be excited. We'll be promoting that, and then go to a family story and keep up with Jason and his Rethinking God with Tacos podcast, and so many things that are happening. Yeah. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, well, thanks so much for being on, and we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Thankful for you. Really.
Yeah.
Grateful for you.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right, everybody, do all the things, like, share. This is going to help someone. So do that and join us for our next time, and I will see you soon, Jason. It was great having you on.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Perspectives with Catherine Toon. For additional information and resources, please visit catherinetoon.com.